Oh man, has it been another week already? This has been the slowest and fastest year of my life.
I have anxiety.
Last week we tackled generalized anxiety disorder, but this week we're going to talk about panic disorder and agoraphobia.
My diagnosis is that you've experienced a severe anxiety attack.
Welcome back everyone, I'm Dr. Jackie. As you can see from the title, I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist. I'm practicing full-time, but I do the YouTube to spread awareness of mental health topics and hopefully inspire the people who are interested in pursuing a career in this field. I'm going to be tackling all the mental health disorders, but for now we're going to be tackling the diagnoses that fall under the umbrella of anxiety. If that's interesting to you, like and subscribe, join the team, and let's learn some stuff.
Oh man, you did it, didn't you? You happy now?
What did I say?
Oh shit.
Hey! Wait!
Panic attacks come on suddenly, and there is a period of intense fear and apprehension that could be ranging from 10 to 15 minutes up to an hour, but rarely over an hour.
And then it just catches up to me all of a sudden.
They can happen multiple times a day or even once a month. Panic attacks could be completely unexpected, or they could be associated with a very specific trigger.
Are you having another attack? I didn't even mention New York.
Right, and then you just said it by name while denying having said it.
Because of that, you could see panic attacks associated with a lot of other disorders like agoraphobia, which we'll touch on in a little bit, as well as post-traumatic stress disorder.
Remember when I told you that I have an anxiety issue?
Does this subject make you edgy?
Yeah, a little bit. Can I just catch my breath for a second?
Or social anxiety, OCD, specific phobias, and depression. Like I talked about with generalized anxiety, you want to make sure that there's no medical cause of the anxiety or the panic attack.
Check the heart, is it the brain?
No sign of cardiac anomaly or unusual brain activity.
Okay, so it was poison?
I know I'm a broken record when I say this, but anxiety manifests in many physical symptoms. So a lot of people who experience their first or second panic attack might go to the emergency room or go to their doctor because they actually think they're having a heart attack.
It felt like my heart was going to explode.
Panic attacks can manifest with many physical symptoms like palpitation, shortness of breath.
Breathe. Yeah, breathe. You put too much pressure on yourself.
You can tremble or shake. You could have difficulty swallowing or have that sense that you're choking. Some people describe numbness and tingling, as well as lightheadedness. They often describe feeling like they're losing control, or they could even feel like they're dying. So it's a very scary feeling.
I just feel so helpless. Like I have no control over anything.
Another thing that people with panic attacks sometimes describe is something that we call derealization and depersonalization. When you're experiencing derealization, you question whether things are real or not. And then there's also depersonalization, where people say that sometimes they have an out-of-body experience, or they feel detached from themselves, and that sometimes can happen during panic attacks as well. For children, you might see panic attacks occur in separation anxiety disorder when they're separating from their parents. So that would probably be better explained with a diagnosis of separation anxiety disorder. Whereas in panic disorder, you would have somebody that's experiencing recurrent panic attacks, sometimes not associated with a stimulus. They're also worried about when their next panic attack is going to happen and fearful about that.
Oh God, I can't.
Are you having another attack?
As well as changing their lifestyle, avoiding certain areas because they are worried that a panic attack might come on unexpectedly and not be able to escape.
Sorry.
So we'll talk about agoraphobia in a little bit and how panic attacks kind of lead to that, but that would be the difference. So you want to make sure that you rule out all the other diagnoses, because panic attacks can definitely happen in a range of the other anxiety disorders. But if it's only occurring with a specific stimulus like specific phobia or compulsions in OCD, then that would be the more appropriate diagnosis to give.
Randall is getting worse. Do we need to talk to someone, like a guidance counselor, or just
For panic attacks, it would be really useful to know what the triggers are. So if it's a certain environment, certain situation.
How did you get out of the wormhole?
Wait a minute, Tony.
If it's a substance like nicotine, caffeine, alcohol, lack of sleep could also trigger worsening anxiety and therefore panic attacks. It would be really useful to figure out what the antecedent would be. So whatever the trigger is before the actual panic attack.
Maybe once every decade things get too overwhelming.
As you can see with Randall, he experiences many symptoms of panic attacks and definitely does experience panic attacks pretty consistently throughout his life.
Counselor, or
I don't know if that's my thing.
it's better than torturing yourself. Trust me.
Unfortunately, he struggles to identify that he has anxiety, that needs counseling or therapy, despite other people in his life really encouraging him to seek help and noticing that he's really suffering.
No, I mean, like, you go to therapy.
Although it's possible that you could diagnose panic disorder in a younger child, it usually has an onset in late adolescence or young adulthood. The reason why we want to take panic attacks so seriously is because even though they're fleeting, less than an hour, there is a big association with depression, substance use, and even suicidal thoughts.
We started working together. You asked me to challenge you.
I know my faults. I know what triggers me, but I think my faults are good faults, and I would rather have them than to not have them.
It takes a lot of courage to seek treatment for panic attacks, but it definitely would benefit from it.
I'm not coming up. It's too dangerous for such very small animals in all that very large wind.
But you can't stay under there forever, Piglet.
The other diagnosis that we're talking about in today's video is agoraphobia. Even though it's a separate diagnosis in the DSM, it's most commonly seen with panic disorder. What agoraphobia really is the fear of entering a place where you will have an inability to escape.
It's a telegram for Piglet.
But Piglet who?
The Piglet who lives at this house and is hiding under his chair.
While Piglet struggled to leave his home and preferred to be at home, some other people experience fear of being home alone. Other people also struggle with public transportation or being in wide open spaces or enclosed spaces like a big field versus an elevator. So your agoraphobia could really apply to any of those kinds of spaces where the fear is to not be able to escape.
Piglet, do you want to come out and play?
But Piglet's not at home.
If Piglet's not at home, then who am I talking to?
I think that's all we have for today. Hopefully you learned something new. I am Dr. Jackie again. Find me on Instagram, Dr. Jackie. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you learned something new, I'd really appreciate it. If you're interested in the music that I use sometimes throughout the video or oftentimes near the end of the video, I have the links in the description down below. I hope you all have a really good week and I'll see you at the next video.